Welcome to Creative Writing Corner. I'm your host, Luke, and today we're talking about why to write a shitty first draft. So this is going to be a little more adult-themed episode because we're going to be using some adult language that I normally like to avoid on this channel, the YouTube algorithms and stuff. But you might want to put the kids in the other room for this one. Of course, if you haven't done that already, then they've already heard it. But anyway, our lesson today comes from Anne Lamott's Bird by Bird. If you have not read this, I highly recommend you do. I assigned several chapters, including the first 3 chapters, including the chapter that I'm pulling this lesson from, to my creative writing class every year, and near the beginning of every year, because it really helps to get them outside of their own heads and helps them realize that it's okay to write like crap. It's okay to write a first draft that absolutely stinks, because as Ernest Hemingway says, the first draft of everything is shit. And he is Ernest Hemingway. So, shitty first drafts are not unknown. As a matter of fact, they're more standard than you may realize. Lamott says that people tend to look at successful writers who are getting their books published and maybe even doing well financially and think that they sit down at their desks every morning feeling like $1 million, feeling great about who they are and how much talent they have and what a great story they have to tell. They take in a few deep breaths, push back their sleeves, roll their necks a few times to get the cricks out, and dive in, typing fully formed passages as fast as a court reporter. But this is just the fantasy of the uninitiated. If you've ever been a writer, if you've ever tried to write a story, if you've ever tried to write multiple stories, if you've ever tried to write a novel or a full screenplay or anything like that, you know better. You know that this is not the way writing works. And the most successful writers in the world, the greatest writers you've ever read, the writers that everyone reads, still don't turn out polished, perfect work the first time around. Very few writers really do know what they're doing until they've done it. Lamott says that we all feel like we are pulling teeth, even those writers whose prose ends up being the most natural and fluid. aka Ernest Hemingway. As I said, the right words and sentences do not come pouring out like ticker tape most of the time. For me and most of the other writers I know, included, writing is not rapturous. In fact, the only way I can get anything written at all is to write really, really shitty rough drafts. Lamott is just not just speaking for herself here. She's taught writing courses. She's been one of the most respected writing teachers in America for years now. I am not the only person who assigns this book to his creative writing class. So again, I highly recommend reading the whole thing, but get this lesson right now. Get this in your head and make it stick there. The first draft is the child's draft. That's where you let it all pour out and let it romp all over the place, knowing that no one is going to see it and that you can shape it later. You just let this childlike part of you channel whatever voices and visions come through onto the page. It doesn't matter how stupid you might think it sounds, right? Nobody is going to see it. Keep that in mind. Nobody has to see your first draft. You write for the wastebasket. You write for the trash can. Don't throw your stuff away. You can always use it later. You can always fix it later. But you have to write that initial draft for the garbage. What I tell my students is that you can always fix it later, but you can never fix what you don't build. You can't fix what has never been built. You have to build it first. And the first building is going to kind of suck. That's fine, because you can always go back and do an operation to make it better later on. Great writing is rewriting. Almost all good writing begins with terrible first efforts. You need to start somewhere. Start by getting something, anything, down on paper. If you guys have ever done NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, you know that entire project is pretty much based off of this idea that you're writing a shitty first draft, just a long shitty first draft. You got 1 month to write 50,000 words, and it does not need to be good. As a matter of fact, it shouldn't be good. If you can write a good 50,000 word first draft in a month, then you should already be a successful author. But most of us can't do that, and that's okay. The first draft is the down draft. You just get it down. The second draft, and you go back through and start fixing things, that's the updraft. You fix it up. You try to say what you have to say more accurately. And then the third draft is the dental draft. That's where you check every tooth to see if it's loose or cramped or decayed or even, God help us, healthy. This is where you check your writing style. This is where you check your grammar and punctuation and all that other stuff, all the nitty gritty. That second draft is where you clean up the storytelling. That first draft is just where you get the ideas down. And that's the most important point here. Give yourself permission to suck. Give yourself permission to write shitty first drafts because you're going to anyway. Quiet those voices in your head. Quiet that inner editor, that inner critic that tells you, oh, that's terrible. You can't write that. Why would you do that? Oh, it's god awful. Shut that inner critic up or turn him into a character in your story. Make him the corrupt judge. Make him the Weasley public official or the abusive boyfriend, because that's what that inner voice is to you when he's telling you how shitty your work is the first time you write it down. Shut him up, pour him onto the page, make him pay for his voice, make him pay for his speech. I say him because my inner voice is male, but whatever your inner voice happens to be, shut it up. Get it quiet. The inner voice can come back in, your inner editor can come back in when it's time to edit. But in the meantime, shut that voice up, get to work, get your story told, and if it's going to be bad, let it be bad. Let your inner child come out and play and tell a bad story. And then you can go back and fix it up later. Remember, nobody sees your first draft. They don't have to. All right, guys, I hope this helped you out. It always helps me out. I reread this book probably once a year. Again, highly recommend it. Bird by Bird by Anne Lamott. I'll try to leave a link for that book down in the description. Thanks a lot for tuning in, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. That really helps me out, helps me make more content like this that I hope helps you out on your writing journey. So like and subscribe, and check the description. There's going to be a link to a free character creation template. So click on that, get your free character creation template, and that should hopefully give you some inspiration to start some new stories and tell some better stories about better characters. Tell them faster. We're creating better stories faster. That's Creative Writing Corner's motto. Have a good one, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you next time.